Hello and welcome back to another Torah Tuesday. Today we're going to spend some time in Genesis chapter 11. We'll actually be here for the next few weeks looking at the story of the Tower of Babel. I'm working on this story for my next book with InterVarsity Press on what it means to be the image of God. So let's dive in. This is an amazing story. I'm learning so much as I look at it. So the story begins by telling us that the whole earth was one lip and one vocabulary, or that it had one lip and one vocabulary, which is a way of saying that people all spoke the same language, or they had a shared language. So the question I want to consider today is, was there really only one language at this time? How are we supposed to take this phrase? Well, Genesis 10 suggests otherwise. In verse 4, verse 20, and verse 31 of Genesis 10, it speaks of the multiplicity of languages among the nations on earth at that time. So that raises a question in Genesis chapter 11 about whether the one language of this Babel story is in fact an imperial language, a trade language imposed by imperial control. Chapter 11, verse 6 implies that this society is up to no good. They're devising things. God doesn't want them to continue to devise things. So that puts a negative slant on their building project. Another reason we get a negative vibe about this building project is actually from Genesis 10, verses 8 through 12, where we're told about a man named Nimrod. Nimrod's name in Hebrew means "we will rebel." And we're told that he built the city of Babel, or there it may say in your English Bible, Babylon. It's the same in Hebrew. Babel and Babylon are the same word. We're told that Nimrod was a mighty warrior and a mighty hunter. He was literally a warrior of the earth and a warrior over the animals, or warrior of animals. So he's a violent guy, and he's made a name for himself by being violent. It tells us that Babel was one of the centers of his kingdom. Nimrod built a string of cities across Mesopotamia, and perhaps he's attempting to bring unity to this kingdom by imposing a common language on everyone. Ironically, their language seems quite limited. So this one language, although it's touted as a benefit because they are able to build things together, they have a way of talking to each other. When you read it, it actually sounds like the Dr. Seuss of the ancient Near East. It is quite amusing. So when they say in verse 3, let us, here's my wooden translation of verse 3, come, let us brick bricks and let us fire them with fire. And actually, there's no them. The them is not even there. So it's let us brick bricks and let us fire fire. In Hebrew, it says nil bana levanim. Let us brick bricks, or brick make bricks. It's hard to capture it in English because brick is both a verb and a noun in this language. And then the second line is v'nisrafa lisrafa. V'nisrafa lisrafa. Let us fire with fire. So, ironically, although they're trying to accomplish a lot, they seem to have a limited vocabulary with which to do so. And then we're told in verse 3, for them it was brick for stone, and tar was for them for mortar. So that's, again, my wooden translation of it, but it sounds really fun in Hebrew. Halavana la'aven. So for bricks, there were stones, but brick and stone sound alike in Hebrew. And tar for mortar is v'hachemar lachomer. So it's chemar for chomer. So again, tar for mortar. It rhymes in Hebrew. It sounds similar. So their words are sort of limited, and they're making substitutions for common ancient Near Eastern building materials. In fact, the building materials they're using are inferior. So rather than stone, they're making bricks which could crumble over time. Rather than using mortar, the best thing they have to use is tar. So this is an implicit critique of their materials that they're using for building. So Genesis 10 presents a diversity of clans, cultures, and languages as the fulfillment of God's blessing. Humans were to fill the earth and subdue it. Genesis 11 suggests that people had begun to gather rather than spread, and that their cities were centers of an increasingly violent empire. This is not to say that all cities are bad, but the description of Nimrod in Genesis 10 hints at the oppressive nature of his rule and the reduction of the beautiful diversity of language. So at the very least, this story stands as an understated critique of Babylon. Remember, Babel and Babylon are the same word, showing that human ambition is no match for God. It may also be the case that this phrase at the beginning of the story, all the earth or the whole earth had one lip, is also an ironic statement, because the Babylonians like to think of themselves as the center of the universe and as if all the earth belonged to them. But clearly we've just seen a list in chapter 10 of Genesis of 70 nations. The Babylonians are not everything. They're not, and there are lots of languages. So it could also be that to call this the whole earth is a mockery of Babylon's narcissistic tendencies. So if you have enjoyed this and you would like to be able to look at the Hebrew for yourself, some of you have written me to say, man, I really think I should learn Hebrew. This stuff is so interesting. I would recommend another YouTube channel called Aleph with Beth. I'll put a link in the description below. They are free videos that teach you Hebrew, and you can begin with any language. You don't need to know English in order to learn Hebrew on this site for Aleph with Beth. Great videos, and it would be a great and fun way to get started. Have a great week.